In day one, we learned Gestalt laws, and I think that was really important because it helps us build a base to our ideas, to our thoughts, like a visual base. So, learning about again, like first of all, identifying these laws in other posters was really important because so like in this like laws of similarity, you can see that objects are looking similar to one another, and like also understanding why they're looking like that, because maybe the lines, the kind of lines they're using, and the color lines and the thicknesses and like their overall composition makes them look like similar to one another even though they are different. And then laws of continuity, which I wasn't clear on before, but I got clearer later on, because I thought laws of continuity would require having one line of direction, but because this is still continuity in that sense ki one object is taking you to the other and another, and there doesn't need to be a start point to this. So I think going over posters and why we think they exhibit these laws was really important for us to understand how to create compositions that exhibit these laws. So learning about them, like again laws of similarity, we talked about laws of law of proximity, where objects are placed together to look like they belong to each other. Again, like this grid, the way it's placed together, and like and these Swiss Air and the logo placed together makes them feel like they belong together. We get a sense of an aeroplane and like flying in the air, and so I think that makes sense. And again, ground, when the eye differentiates an object from its surroundings, and this is differentiated because we have this gray surrounding, but and blue, gray and blue surrounding, and so this just pops out at us. So I felt it was law of ground too. And over here again, law of ground, like because of the blackness, the eyes of the panther really come out at us, really like shine through. And I really like these basic laws, understanding these basic laws, and in the posters was really important, I felt. Again, creating our own thing, this was my first attempt at it, so I kept it simple, similar. They're all same lines, but this line over here is a little thicker, but because of its the way it's composed, you feel like it's still similar even though it's not the same. Continuity, again, like having one point of origin and going somewhere else, or even if I had created something other than this, if I had created something that you could not point out where the origin point was, but it was still connected, then it would still be law of continuity. Closure, this I was really interested in as a composition that spoke a story about how we as the people are a grid in this time of corona, and the corona is outside our grid, and if we keep our grid strong, we can protect ourselves. But even one weak link in a grid, may that be a person who goes out too much or does not wear a mask, can result in a whole grid being exposed to having to go to the hospital or dying. So again, this had a story behind it, which I was really interested in using this law to tell the story. Proximity, again, I really enjoyed showing this idea of like how you fill in the patterns, right? You make the objects come together so that you think they belong to each other, but they don't really. They are separate objects, and because the way they are arranged makes them look like they belong together. Ground, again, I felt like it was a great idea to show a story through this. And like again, you can see that the empty white spaces create this sense of a beach area, like with the water and sun and the ground. And I thought that was really interesting to allow the eye to differentiate into a whole like narrative. Again, principles of design, I feel like are really important, are the basis of how we design. We need to make sure, we need to first of all be able to identify these, and then see if we can like deliberately impose them into uh, our layouts. So I noticed that emphasis, symmetry, contrast, and like some of these were really easy to put in a poster and were ones that came out really well. Because I think emphasis, especially because when you have a poster, you need to make sure that you can see it from some like distance. So emphasis really plays an important part. You want to draw the person's eyes, the audience's eyes, some particular place. and to use the principle of emphasis is important. Again, over here you can see symmetry playing in the human face. Human face is always most likely always symmetrical. And again, the contrast also helps bring forth these the emphasis of the what really matters, right? And again, I felt rhythm in the way the lines were put together, like in the grid system that was in the grid over here that was happening, the rows that were happening over here, and proportion and scale playing with the lettering, like some lines have large lettering, some have smaller lettering. I found really interesting. Again, like I feel like some of them are easy. Emphasis and contrast I feel like always come together, because for something to be emphasized, oftentimes contrast is used, and so I always feel like that they always came together a lot. Again, this was really interesting in terms of the repetition of these rows. Really, like the script itself helps with the sense of repetition that occurs in this poster, right? And yeah, like again, the contrast and emphasis of these posters really help together. Like you come here and you look at something, and then something else draws your eyes, and then something else draws your eyes. So like playing with the proportions of the person, the human, and the text, and and the product itself was really interesting. Again, harmony was really important. I think harmony did come together in this, in terms of how this is a part of a whole. I'm not sure if that happens, if harmony is part of this, but I do believe, in my perspective, this shows harmony. Again, this was really, like, this was again something I really found interesting, and is part and parcel, like an inspiration for my ground poster, law of ground poster, gestalt poster. And in this I was really interested in the rhythm of these lines, the rhythm and repetition that they used of the same kind of style, and the contrast that they played with three colors, right? White, black, and blue. And so that was really interesting, in how they created an entire composition out of it. Interesting grids. So I was really interested in this idea that was explored, that you make a grid and then you can try breaking it, and you have clear columns over here, but the rows are distorted, and that creates a really interesting broken effect, which still shows us helps us give this idea of a structure. I really like the idea of symmetry, the play of symmetry here, with every single components that you have. Like you can have this component which has some sense of symmetry in it. You have like again this entire symbol over here that allows for symmetry, and the way the rows, the text is placed, and the circles are placed really allows you to have multiple symmetry perspectives. And then doodling the mast heads layouts again was really interesting, because this was my first introduction to creating these kind of grids, right? And this allowed me to just play around with, like, let's maybe I'll have three with pictures behind it, and just here, and then have some with pictures over here, and see where I can put my text around. So it was about just exploring. And this is what, like, I was really interested in learning these base techniques, learning, because it's so important. I really feel it's so important to set your base first before you move forward. Canons was really important. I think again, this canon helped us create like existing well-known bases, right? To how the Willard diagram, again, like in different pages, it is different. And so setting up that base is again a very uh, an emphasis on this day, on the activities we did this day. And the Fibonacci ratio I think was really important, because like understanding how it plays in a poster, and how you can make it play in your own posters. Because the interesting thing about this was, I the understanding that even sometimes when you have too much busy stuff happening, the empty spaces, whatever you think is the emptiness, can be the first to draw your attention. So how does your attention get drawn? Does it go from this person to the text, or from the text to the this illustration? And so like just asking yourself these questions, like what all possible ways can you draw a person's like this yellow background really draws my attention first sometimes when I look at it. So the emptiness is what's drawing me first, before maybe the face is once draws me first. So just understanding this was really interesting, understanding these base ideas, these base diagrams, to really help settle our understanding of the entire process that we are going to look forward to.